Kalen Patterson, Midwest Muscle, P4P Real Talk in the house that Mike and Superhuman Newman built, Fit Body U. And we are here with two greats, a Hall of Famer and a great trainer. Yeah. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I'm loving this.
But one of the greatest trainers out there one of the greatest in the business just happens to waltz into Fit Body U today. I had no idea Peter Fitchman was coming to Fit Body U until this morning. So it's quite the pleasant surprise. So since we're going to get surprised by Peter Fitchman, which is not even your first time, you've been here before. You know, he's been here before, but we've grown a little bit since he's been here last. But since we have him here, we're going to ask a couple of questions. This guy is one of the best. I mean, you got Cliff Wilson, you got John Gorman, you got Leif Anderson, but this guy is right up there with those top dogs. So, Peter, let's talk about the difference between eating for health and eating for fat loss. I get members in here all the time. They're like, Mike, I'm eating oatmeal for breakfast, and I'm eating an apple for a snack, and I got a salad, throughout the day, and a sensible dinner. Why am I not losing weight? Well, you're not clogging your arteries. You're eating for health, but you're not eating for fat loss. So describe the difference.
All right. So, first off, I don't think that eating for health and eating for fat loss are mutually exclusive. I don't think that you have to eat one way for fat loss and one way for health. I think you probably should be trying to do both. In order to lose body fat, you need to consume fewer calories than you expend. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. But if so you'll lose weight. But if you can do that a number of different ways. So you can create a deficit just eating pure garbage and doing a ton of exercise. You'll lose weight, yeah, but health is also important. They're both important, and so that's where I think the recommendation of 80-90% of food, at least from nutrient-dense foods, probably a good idea. At least 80-90% of your food coming from those foods that are high in vitamins, minerals, a variety of colors of fruits, vegetables, things like that. That would be an approach I would take while eating in a calorie deficit so that you lose weight.
Yeah. You were talking about eating garbage and you can create a deficit and still lose weight, but to build a quality body, to build a quality physique, you have to have quality nutrients, right? So the look of your physique would be different based on the kind of nutrients you took in.
Absolutely.
And then give it to Caitlin when you get done.
Absolutely. It would definitely be different. I mean, if obviously eating a high protein diet is going to be important. Eating, enough fat to support hormone production. Eating, carbohydrates probably before your workout for most people is going to help you have a better workout, better performance in the gym. That's going to help you retain more muscle. So absolutely, food source is going to matter. It's and that's where back to the kind of the recommendation where general recommendation for most people, even if you're shooting for fat loss, at least 80-90% of your food probably should be coming from nutrient-dense foods.
I like the sound of that.
And one of the things that most people will always bring up is I don't have time. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to prepare. And then you start getting into supplements. How do you deal with that where they don't over-supplement? Because that is possible. I've seen it done where it really ruins the body.
Yeah, I mean, I guess time, the biggest pieces of advice I give to clients who are new to tracking their intake is one, you got to plan ahead.
Yes.
If you tell someone you're going to eat this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs, this many grams of fat in a day, they've never tracked that before. Mm-hmm. They're going to look at that and be like,
speaking of foreign language.
Yeah, what do I do? And so you got to look at that, and you got to look at as they work into that, the way they're going to have to probably start is plan ahead. Mm-hmm. And so, the night before, sit down, I need to hit these, macros tomorrow. How am I going to do that? What's my meal plan going to look like? And that's where a lot of times with clients, I'll have them when they're first starting to track, forward me like, what are you planning to eat these first few days? Like, so I can give them some feedback,
yes.
And how are you going to hit these numbers, and so I think planning ahead's huge. And then, prepping food ahead of time is huge when you're super busy. When I was working on my PhD, I was gone from my house probably 12 hours a day or more. And so, between, working in the lab and class and the gym and all that. And so, on the weekends, just cooking in bulk was such a big benefit. So,
yes.
When
you have the time.
Oh yeah, when you have the time, so, every Saturday or Sunday, usually Sunday, afternoon, Sunday night, just, cook up a bunch of chicken, lean meats, some potatoes or rice, get some carbs, vegetables, steam up,
mm-hmm.
make sure everything's there for the week. That way, all you have to do when you're busy is just weigh it out, grab what you need, weigh it out, and eat it. You don't have to actually make a fresh meal. And even to this day, I mean, I work from home now, and I still, prep food in bulk. I don't have time to make a fresh
Exactly.
meal in the middle of the day every day.
Who would? Nobody would.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Now, how do we alleviate the stress of a gym owner basically being presented with everything you just said, and then he has to deal with all these people that have all these questions,
Yeah.
and then they bury him to where he's like, well, you're not helping me with my
Yeah.
diet. It's like,
Well,
no.
because a lot of regular average people don't have the mindset of competitors. Competitors are willing to hit the
Yes.
numbers
Yes.
every
Yes.
single day,
Yes.
7 days a week. They're willing not to go to restaurants.
So,
They're
yeah.
willing not to eat and drink. The average people want to lose a few pounds, but they want to go out eating and drinking too. So what do
Yeah.
you tell those people?
Yes.
So I about a quarter or third of my clients are Gen Pop. So I mean,
Gen Pop,
about
yeah.
two-thirds,
that.
about 2/3, 3/4, compete, but they're a quarter third that have no interest in it or never plan to. And so for them, it's about finding that middle ground.
Yes.
And just taking simple steps like maybe the first steps just make them conscious of what their calorie intake is, or
always shocked.
or maybe limit the amount that they're eating out for the week, or
Yeah.
a couple steps. Like sometimes I've had general population clients. Initially we've just changed 2 or 3 things. They're like, this is all we're doing, and I'm like, to start, let's do these things.
To start.
Let's do this first, and then let's add to it.
All right, so they don't got to be perfect.
No.
They just got to be better than what they were.
Yes,
As far
yeah.
as just cut out little
Yeah.
things, but don't cut out everything.
Yeah. And then if it comes down to, I've had the situation before with someone who's a general population person where client where they aren't making the progress they want. So maybe they've made progress for a while and they're not making the progress they want.
Yeah.
And so then, you got to have the difficult conversation of, okay, well, you can make more progress, but it's going to take more sacrifice. So for you, your life, the balance you want to have, where does that fall? Where is that point for you?
Yeah.
And it may be they might say, I'm not willing to sacrifice a whole lot more. I'm good with where things are at. All right, let's work on maintaining that. Or they may say, I want to make more progress. Let's try to push a little harder
Great
and do
stuff,
a few more
great
things.
stuff. Well, let's talk about cardio as well then. A lot of members come in here thinking they need to do 4 or 5 hours of cardio a week, and I got to slow them down.
Yes.
So I'm trying to lose as much weight as possible without doing a ton of cardio, and I try to limit them to 90 minutes, but really you don't want to do a ton of cardio. So what's your rule on cardio for the general population?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing I focus on with general population first, before I even have them do tons of cardio, is what's your activity look like throughout the day?
Yeah.
Because you're in the gym for an hour, maybe hour and a half,
Yeah, 45 minutes.
for 4 or 5 days a week.
population, yeah.
But there's 23 hours of the day, 24, and the days
Yeah.
you're not in the gym. What do you do in those times? Because you're still expending calories. And so one thing I think is important and a very easy thing to implement with people who aren't interested in competing is have them start looking at their step counts throughout the day.
Step counts, okay.
You may find that someone that works a sedentary
There's an app
job,
for that.
it's there's plenty of apps for that, and
Yeah.
you may find that their activity is super low.
Yeah, lower than they think.
Someone who works a sedentary job, maybe 4,000 to 7,000 steps a day. Someone who works
Yeah.
from home in a sedentary job, 2,000 to 4,000 steps. I mean, it's not high.
No.
And so one place a lot of times I'll start even before we add cardio, because cardio takes more time in the gym. So
Yeah.
if they're going to go to the gym, they only have so much time. Let's have them
Yeah.
lift while they're there.
Right, exactly.
But
Lift while you're there.
but so maybe they only have 45 minutes 3 days a week or something. Well, let's lift for that time. But then let's where you can walk anywhere, and so maybe they track their steps for a week or two. We figure out kind of where their average is, and maybe they average like 6,000 steps a day. So we set a minimum of maybe 7 or 8,
Okay.
and just that makes them, you got to make either an effort to walk more throughout the day, or maybe go for a walk with your significant other or kids or whatever at night,
Yeah.
or something like that. Just moving a little bit, you know what I mean? Getting
Yeah.
them moving outside the gym, because I mean, for someone who's not competitors are willing to be in the gym like 2 hours a day if they have to be.
they're willing to do that.
But someone in the general population who's not a competitor,
No.
maybe they only have 45 minutes or an hour.
Things
so
come up.
Yep, things
Yeah.
come up.
Life
So
gets in the way.
yeah, and so that's where step counts can be awesome, because to hit a step minimum, you can do that whenever, wherever. You don't need the
Okay.
gym. You can fit that into your life a lot easier.
Well, what if I don't mean to take all the questions, Kalen? I know this is your show. You're on here every single week, so let me get. Now, what if you got a nurse? Can I get some people like, well, Mike, I'm a nurse. I work 12 to 16 hours a day. Ask my doctor. I don't even get time to go to the bathroom. I'm always walking down the hallways. I did my cardio today. Or somebody else. Oh, Mike, I built a patio this weekend. I did my cardio today. What do you say about that? Is that considered cardio, or what do you think? Or is it just icing on the cake?
Yeah, I mean that's where I would say, if you're looking at step counts, that's where,
Yeah.
if it's someone doing that. But so for someone who's a competitor who like is a nurse, for example, and has a busy schedule, yeah, they're gonna blow away whatever I set for a step minimum the days
Yeah,
they work.
right.
But then we focus on, well, what are you doing on the days you don't work?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
you work
Yeah, yeah,
three
yeah.
12s, you get 15,000 steps during your shift easily.
Yeah.
What about those other 4 days of the week? Or what are you getting for steps there? And then if you're doing, and then maybe if they're doing actual cardio, maybe on those other 4 days of the week, maybe some of those are the days where we're fitting some of that cardio in.
Okay, good stuff. Now, what if a nurse gets like say 12 to 15,000 steps a day, but her heart rate never gets above
Yeah.
that 65 to 70%
Yeah.
max heart rate level? Is that good enough just to get those steps in, even though her heart rate's not that high for a long period of time?
That, I guess it depends what your goal. It comes down to the goal. I mean, if
Yeah.
the goal is fat loss and expending calories, you're going. It blows my mind sometimes how much of a difference a couple thousand extra steps a day can make. Like,
So just making the steps means they don't need to do as much cardio
in the gym. Yeah,
Okay.
and so if you're pressed for time in the gym.
Yeah.
You can lift while you're at the gym. You don't have to.
your time, too.
Yeah, and so if they have time to do cardio at the gym, yeah, then
they have
absolutely.
time, okay.
But that's just one way to get around. Like, hey, I only have 3 hours a week in the gym.
Yeah.
You can have them lift those 3 hours, and or more of those 3 hours
Yeah.
at least.
Well, and weight training is a calorie burning
Yeah.
activity,
Yes,
so
yeah.
it just makes sense to
and
lift
so
while you're here.
and then it comes down to cardiovascular benefits, and if they have goals of maybe running a marathon or something like that. Obviously, they're going to have to do some cardio.
Okay, last question for now, and then you can take over, Kay. I might have more after you. But you get a lot of gym members in the general population that do classes and cardio only. They're afraid of weights because they think they're going to look at Miss Olympia. They think they're going to build too much muscle. They think so. They do classes and cardio. Or they just don't know what to do and they don't want to look foolish, so they just avoid the weights.
Yeah.
But they're doing classes and cardio only. And I always explain it: if you're shaped like an apple and don't do weights, you'll be a smaller version of an apple. But what's your take on that for the general population if they do classes and cardio only, but they don't lose weight or they don't lift weights?
Yeah, I mean, I think the data is that if you diet and let's say you take someone who diets, eats in a calorie deficit, only does cardio, they lose body weight. Obviously, they're going to lose body fat, but they're also going to diet away more muscle.
Yes.
Because you're losing fat and muscle.
Okay.
If you
Yes.
take someone who,
Because
especially
too much cardio burns muscle.
and especially if you take someone who's lifting weights, maybe they lift weights and do cardio, but they're at least including lifting weights
Yeah.
in a calorie deficit, you typically see more muscle retention because they're lifting weights. And if it's someone who's a beginner, you may even actually see them build muscle while they drop fat,
Yeah.
and so you see a larger change in body composition, so like someone who just does cardio, maybe they lose 10 pounds, but
how
maybe
much
maybe
is
it's
it?
half and half
1
muscle
yeah,
fat.
plus muscle burns fat. So if you lose muscle, you're actually burning off less fat,
Build a
Yeah.
big engine.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
take it over, Caleb.
Yeah.
We can stop right. Guys,
11
get back.
bodybuilding championships.
We'll get back on that.